the young and the restless spoilers. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today is Tuesday, a beautiful day outside, but inside the world of Genoa City, things are completely and utterly falling apart. We have a massive amount of drama to unpack today, so grab a huge cup of coffee, maybe a snack, and let's dive right into the absolute madness that is currently unfolding on our screens. And honestly, I am just so exhausted by Nick Newman right now. I mean, we all are, right? You guys know I've been covering this show and this specific storyline for a while now, and it just feels like every single time Nick takes one tiny step forward, he takes like 50 massive steps back. Back into the mud, back into the drugs, back into the terrifying Matt Clark hallucinations. It's a lot. It's just a lot. I sit here looking at my screen and I just think, what are the writers doing to this man? They are breaking him down to his absolute lowest point, and just when you think he can't go any lower, they hand him a shovel and tell him to keep digging. But let's rewind a bit to get some context, because you really need to remember what happened a few episodes ago to understand the absolute chaos of today's episode. Remember when Nick hit absolute rock bottom? He checked himself out of rehab against medical advice, completely ignoring the fact that his parents, Victor and Nikki, were having their vow renewal. He went to that disgusting, dingy park motel. He was doing fentanyl. He was doing cocaine. He was doing whatever he could get his hands on to numb the pain and the fear. And he was with Marie Kirkland, the neighbor from the motel who was just as broken, just as desperate, and just as lost as he was. They did drugs together. They slept together. And then, in one of the most harrowing scenes we've seen in a long time, Marie overdosed. She literally stopped breathing on the floor of that filthy motel room. Nick had to snap out of his own high to do CPR. He was screaming. He was crying. He was pumping her chest. He saved her life. He called 911 and watched the paramedics take her away. And then he called Sharon. He called Sharon because he always calls Sharon when he's completely broken. It's their toxic little pattern, isn't it? Whenever Nick shatters his life into a million pieces, he expects Sharon to show up with a broom and a dustpan to sweep it all up. So now, after all that trauma, Nick is back in rehab. Thank God, he's back in the facility where he belongs, trying to sweat out the toxins and get his mind right. And of course, Sharon comes to visit him. Because of course she does. Sharon is always going to be the one hovering over him, trying to fix him, trying to be his ultimate savior. It's what she does. It's her entire identity when it comes to Nick. But honestly, I don't think Nick wants a savior right now. He just wants the noise in his head to stop. He wants to stop hearing Matt Clark's voice echoing in his brain. Matt is constantly in his head, telling him he's a failure, telling him he destroys his family, telling him that the drugs are the only real freedom he has. It's psychological torture. So after Sharon's visit, or maybe during a moment when she steps out into the hallway to talk to a nurse, the timeline and the editing were a little blurry today. Typical soap stuff. Nick is left alone in his room, and he is just trying to cope. He is crawling out of his skin. The withdrawals are hitting him hard. You can see the sweat on his forehead. You can see the tremor in his hands. He needs a distraction. He desperately needs something, anything, to keep his mind off the pills and off the ghost of Matt Clark. So what does he do? He starts working on a puzzle, a literal jigsaw puzzle. And okay, maybe I'm being too harsh here, but a puzzle? It's such a classic, heavy-handed soap opera trope. The broken, shattered man trying to put the tiny pieces of a puzzle together because his own life is in a million pieces. We get it, writers. We get the metaphor. It's a bit clunky. It's a bit on the nose, but whatever. It gives the actor something to do with his hands. Nick is sitting there. His hands are shaking so badly he can barely pick up the cardboard pieces, and he's staring at this mess on the table. He is frustrated. He is angry. He tries to jam a piece where it clearly doesn't belong, and you can just feel the tension radiating off of him. He is about to give up on the puzzle, just like he wants to give up on his own recovery. And then, suddenly, out of nowhere, a voice speaks up. Nick turns around, and Marie is standing there. Yes, Marie Kirkland, the girl from the motel. The girl who almost died on his floor just a few days ago. Honestly, I didn't expect to see her again so soon. I thought she was just a one-off character, a plot device to push Nick to the absolute edge so he would call Sharon. But no, she's here. She's at the rehab center. How did she get there? Did she check herself in? Did the hospital transfer her here after she stabilized? It makes sense, I guess. She almost died. So hopefully that was a massive wake-up call for her too. Marie looks different now. She looks cleaner. She looks more present, though she still has that fragility of someone who just stared death in the face. She walks up to the table where Nick is struggling. She doesn't judge him. She doesn't pity him. She just looks at the messy pile of cardboard pieces, reaches out, and casually points out a piece that Nick missed. She slides it into place. She gives him a new perspective on the puzzle. See? Another clunky metaphor from the writers. But you know what? It actually works in the scene. It really does. Because Nick looks up at her, and the anger and the frustration just sort of melt away. He looks at Marie, and he doesn't see a junkie. He doesn't see his own rock bottom. He sees someone who is alive, breathing, and standing in front of him because of what he did. He sees living, breathing proof that he isn't just a monster who destroys everything he touches. And then they have this really intense, really quiet, deeply emotional conversation. Marie looks at him, and she just opens up completely. She tells him that by helping her with that simple puzzle piece, it reminded her of what he did for her in reality. She tells him that he gave her a completely new perspective on her own life. She admits, with tears in her eyes, that she owes him. She owes him absolutely everything. Because he saved her from a really, really grim fate. I mean, she was dead. Her lips were blue. She wasn't breathing. Nick brought her back from the brink. Marie thanks him. She looks him dead in the eye and thanks him for being her hero. And you guys, you have to understand how heavy that word is for Nick right now. Hero. Matt Clark has been telling Nick that he is the villain of his own story. Victor treats him like a disappointment. Adam treats him like a liability. But Marie? Marie sees him as a hero. Even if she doesn't feel like a hero herself, even if she feels like trash, she sees him as something good and pure. You can just see the massive internal shift in Nick's eyes when she says that. For the first time in weeks, maybe even months, Nick actually looks like he feels a tiny shred of self-worth. It's exactly what he needed to hear to fight the demons in his head. And then Marie tells him that she is determined to get clean. She wants to turn her life around. She wants to live because he gave her a second chance. It's actually a really beautiful, raw moment. Two broken people who met in the darkest, dirtiest place possible, now trying to find the light together in this sterile rehab room. But of course, this is The Young and the Restless. We can't just have a nice, healing moment. We can't just let characters grow and support each other in peace. No, absolutely not. Because guess who is standing right there in the doorway, watching this entire intimate exchange unfold? Sharon. Sharon Newman. And you guys, she is fuming. She is absolutely, positively livid. Let's be real for a second and psychoanalyze this. Why is Sharon so mad? I mean, logically, she should be thrilled that Nick is connecting with someone in rehab, right? She should be happy he's making progress and finding a reason to stay sober. But no, Sharon is insanely, irrationally jealous. And it's so messy. It is so incredibly messy. She looks at Marie, and all she sees is the trashy motel girl, the enabler, the woman who did drugs with her Nick, the woman who slept with her Nick. Sharon feels this intense, overwhelming ownership over Nick. She is the one who picked him up from the motel when he was crying and broken. She is the one who has been dealing with his crazy family, running interference with Victor, dealing with Nicky's blindness drama. She feels like she is the only one in the entire world who has the right to save Nick Newman. She has this massive savior complex when it comes to him. And now she sees him looking at Marie with this softness, this deep, unspoken connection. And Sharon just completely loses her mind. I literally gasped at the screen. I am not exaggerating. Sharon marches over to them, and she doesn't even think. She doesn't use her degree in psychology. She doesn't act like a rational, mature adult who understands addiction and recovery. She acts completely foolish. She just hauls off and slaps Marie. A full-on, aggressive, across-the-face soap opera slap. In a rehab center. What were they thinking? Who actually believes this is going to end well? I mean, seriously, Sharon slapping a recovering addict in a rehab facility? It's completely out of character for the professional therapist version of Sharon, but also, kinda not. Sharon has always had this unhinged, fiercely territorial side when it comes to protecting what she thinks is hers. And Nick is hers. But still, it was shocking. It was so out of line. The sound of the slap literally echoed in the room. You could see the red mark forming on Marie's cheek. She just stumbled back, completely stunned, probably terrified. And Nick? Oh man. Nick was furious. I haven't seen him this mad in a very, very long time. He completely explodes. He jumps up from the puzzle table, knocking pieces everywhere, and he just starts yelling at Sharon. He scolds her like she's a misbehaving child. And honestly, she deserved it. She completely, 100% deserved it. Nick immediately steps in front of Marie, physically defending her. He is standing between them, protecting Marie from Sharon. And you can see the absolute shock and betrayal in Sharon's eyes when he does that. Nick is yelling at her at the top of his lungs, telling her she has absolutely no right to lay a hand on Marie. He tells her that Marie is trying to get better, that she is fighting for her life just like he is. He probably tells her that Marie is the only reason he's even feeling a tiny bit of hope right now. And Sharon is just standing there, frozen, realizing she made a massive, catastrophic mistake. She let her petty jealousy completely override her common sense and her compassion. She pushed Nick away in the exact moment he was trying to heal, and she did it with violence. Let's talk about the rehab facility itself for a second. The set design is so sterile, so cold. It's exactly the kind of place that makes you want to crawl out of your own skin, which perfectly mirrors what Nick is feeling. He is trapped in this white-walled purgatory, forced to face all the demons he's been running from. And the biggest demon of all is Matt Clark. I know I mentioned Matt earlier, but we really need to dig into how much damage this guy has done to Nick's psyche. Matt didn't just hurt Nick physically, he completely dismantled Nick's sense of reality. He made Nick believe that his own family would be better off if he was dead. That is some heavy, dark psychological warfare. So when Nick is sitting in that sterile room, staring at that puzzle, he isn't just fighting the physical craving for fentanyl, he is fighting the overwhelming, crushing belief that he is a worthless human being. And that's why Marie's words hit him so hard. When she calls him a hero, it's like she throws a lifeline to a man who is actively drowning. It's such a stark contrast to how his own family treats him. Think about Victor for a second. Victor Newman doesn't do vulnerability. Victor expects perfection, strength, and ruthless control. When Nick fails, Victor looks at him with this thinly veiled disappointment that just cuts right to the bone. And Adam? Adam is too busy plotting corporate takeovers and playing games with Chelsea and Newman Media to truly understand what Nick is going through. The Newman family dynamic is so incredibly toxic that it's no wonder Nick had to turn to a complete stranger in a motel to feel understood. And that brings us back to Sharon. Oh, Sharon. I have been a fan of Sharon for years. I have defended her through some of her worst storylines. But this is hard to defend. If you look at Twitter or the message boards right now, the fans on social media are completely divided. Half of them are cheering Sharon on, saying she's just protecting her man from a grifter who dragged him down. But the other half are calling her out for being a massive hypocrite. And honestly, I lean towards the latter. Sharon has a degree in psychology. She runs a coffee house, sure, but she is a trained therapist. She knows better than anyone how fragile early recovery is. She knows that addicts form intense, sometimes codependent bonds with people who share their trauma. She should have walked into that room, seen Nick talking to Marie, and recognized it for what it was, a coping mechanism, a shared moment of healing. But instead, she let her personal insecurities take the wheel. Why is she so insecure? Well, let's look at their history. Nick has a habit of straying. He has a habit of finding comfort in the arms of other women when things get tough. Phyllis, Chelsea, Sally, the list goes on. Sharon is always the safe harbor he returns to, but she is terrified of being replaced. When she saw Marie, this raw, vulnerable woman who shared a near-death experience with Nick, Sharon didn't see a patient in need of help. She saw a threat. She saw a younger, more desperate version of someone who could need Nick more than she does. And the slap. Let's talk about the mechanics of that slap again, because it was just so jarring. It wasn't a quick little tap. She wound up and delivered a blow that echoed. In the real world, that gets you arrested for assault. In soap world, it gets you a dramatic commercial break. But the fallout is what really matters here. Nick's reaction was everything. He didn't hesitate. He didn't try to coddle Sharon or calm her down. He immediately went into protector mode for Marie. "What the hell is wrong with you?" he screamed at her, and you could see the veins popping in his neck. He was so fiercely protective of this woman he barely knows, and I think that's what hurt Sharon the most. It wasn't just that he was mad at her, it was that he chose Marie's side. He stood in front of Marie like a shield. He told Sharon to get out. He literally pointed at the door and told her to leave. Can we just pause and appreciate the acting in that scene though? The raw emotion was palpable. You could feel Nick's desperation to hold on to this tiny thread of goodness he found with Marie. You could feel Marie's shock and humiliation, and you could feel Sharon's instant regret, mixed with stubborn pride. It was clunky, yes. The dialogue was a bit repetitive, like someone thinking out loud and not editing their script. But the emotion was so real. So, where does this leave everyone? Nick is now isolated from his primary support system, Sharon. He is stuck in rehab with a woman he shares a dangerous, trauma-bonded connection with. Marie is trying to stay clean, but she is now the target of Sharon's wrath. And Sharon? Sharon is going to have to do some serious soul-searching. She is going to have to realize that she cannot control Nick's recovery. She cannot bully him into getting better on her terms. I am honestly dreading the moment Victor finds out about this. You just know it's going to happen. Some nurse is going to gossip, or Adam is going to catch wind of it, and it will get back to the mustache. Victor will absolutely use this as ammunition to ban Sharon from the facility. He will probably try to have Marie transferred to a different state just to get her away from his son, because that's what Victor does. He manipulates and controls, and Nick is going to rebel against that control, which might just push him right back into the danger zone. It's a vicious cycle, you guys. It really is. And I am here for all of it, even when it frustrates me to tears. I love this show. I love these characters, even when they make the dumbest possible decisions. Okay, I really need to wrap this up now. My fingers are cramping from typing so fast, and I need to hit publish before the next episode airs and changes everything again. Let me know your thoughts down below. Whose side are you on? Nick? Sharon? Marie? Let's argue in the comments.